Awesome. I'm going to bang my gavel. This was a gavel made for me by some young women in the Innovation Pathways program. Very proud of them. Very proud of my gavel. It is 6 o'clock. Somebody's... Everything good? Yep, good. It is 6 o'clock, Thursday, August 28th. This is a regular session of the Swampscott School Committee. I call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I made a change of order to our agendas, and I'm going to start holding public comment at the beginning so that people don't have to stick around for hours. And I know that we have somebody here who is waiting to speak. So with a little grace from us, because she's got her little baby.
Not expected extra today.
So just introduce yourself. And
So my name is Katie Carolice. I'm one of the board members at Big Blue Bargains, and I just wanted to come in. I know we're on the agenda at the end. I will not be here for that. But we just wanted to speak and say we submitted $5,000 for the integrated preschool. The intention for the integrated preschool to have a music program. They have limited enrichment, and so we became aware of that and thought this would be the perfect way to include something into their routine.
that's terrific. Is it, who came up with the idea?
So actually, you know what, I had heard word from a local mom that was working within the preschool for a bit, and it was just word of mouth. So, you know, we're open, come talk to us when we're open on Tuesday evenings from 5:30 to 7, Thursdays from 10 to 1, and Saturdays from 9 to 1. You can always shoot us an email. We're very responsive. There's a handful of us, and we're all very approachable and just looking for any word of mouth around town. I was in the senior center the other day talking to them about any things that we can do just to make contact. We're getting our footing in the community again, and we're just hoping to kind of do what we can.
Well, so normally we wouldn't respond during public comment, but I think since this is a little bit different, you normally would have been here at the end. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I can just say, as someone in the past whose child used the integrated preschool, I think it's just great what you guys are doing. It's an incredibly generous, and for all the volunteers. You know, I just want to say thank you for everybody, and it's great. I think it's fantastic.
I appreciate all our volunteers.
I think also I want to say thank you because I'm glad that it's going still. Like it was my generation of parents that sort of, you know, we're starting it, and I think it's great that it's got legs and life again, and it's awesome. And I think that I hope people outside of the school community start volunteering as well, right? I see some seniors in there all the time, so.
We have a good group, and we cannot thank them enough. We
Yeah,
can't
it's
do it
pretty
without
awesome.
them.
It's pretty awesome.
5 board members have 2 to 3 to 4 children.
Yeah. I know. Well, it's always the busiest people that do the most.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Right?
Can I try?
Get while the getting's good. Do we know if there's anybody on online for public comment?
Let's see. Nobody has their hand up.
Right, I'll just wait a minute, see if anybody, is there anybody online?
There's one person.
Okay, so I'll just assume that there's nobody here for public comment. So we'll move forward with committee comments. I know everybody's probably pretty rusty after not meeting together for 2 months or so. So if you want to start, Glenn.
Sure. First and foremost, welcome back, everybody.
To Mr. Kalishman, welcome to your first day of forever, we hope.
Thank you.
Hope it went well. I know that Amy and I were speaking earlier today, and just speaking to my own family members and others, the vibe has been unbelievable at all the schools.
Yeah.
And I just think that's just great. I think looking to the future, I think just as Amy and I were talking, change, differences are good. It's a great thing. And I know I'm excited for the year. I'm excited to what the year brings, new staff, new administrators. And I'm excited. I want to say what I think I say a lot is some things in the news. We are here to service all the children, regardless of whatever gender, whatever they believe in. Our job is to educate and accept those differences, teach others about those differences, and make this a community of complete and utter acceptance. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this year goes. Thank you very much, Amy.
John?
I wanted to welcome Mr. Kalishman as well. I remember when we voted on your appointment, July 1st seemed like 100 years away, and, here we are, well past that. So looking forward to the year as well, and just nice to be back.
Thank you.
Miguel, how about you?
Okay, me? Excited for the school year to start. I know I've seen everyone kind of running around a little bit, but that's good. It's good positive energy from everyone. Everyone that I've spoken to about their kids going back to school has been very excited as well, especially with all of the new leadership on all levels. So definitely excited to see how things kind of play out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, ditto with that. I've been really enjoying Instagram accounts and seeing lots of happy pictures and lots of colorful pictures, and just it really does look like there's so much positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you and your staff for doing all the outings you did this summer, at the block party. Your presence, people did talk about that. That was really great. I mean, we're all saying welcome, whatever, but we know you've been working really hard for a lot longer than just today.
The whole team.
So,
the whole team. Thank you.
and honestly, I really enjoyed the seniors' first day of school this year. It was just fun, not to have a senior, and my nephew it's just fun to watch all that stuff, and so happy it's starting again. Soccer game tonight was fun.
I don't have much to report because everything that I did was in participation with you and your staff, and so I won't steal any thunder there, but it was all from a school committee perspective, very exciting, and I feel particularly with the things that involve the teachers that we really set up some really great momentum with our negotiations, and I feel like that really, I don't want to say it changed the tenor, but it certainly just keeps it's on the upward, and I'm really proud of the work that we all did as a group that everybody participated in, and so there's that. I also wanted to say, I know that with the conversation that Mr. Kalishman and I had today, that we're very careful about being happy about all of the new things and the new exciting things. And I want to say that I don't think that it is any slight to Superintendent Angelakis. That change is, if there are changes from the way that she did things, it's not because they weren't right, because we had a great district then. It's just that this is your show now, and I just want to sort of set the stage for all of us that we can honor and be excited about the new things that you're doing without it being a repudiation of what's happened in the past. So that's all I wanted to say.
Great.
So with that, we're going to go straight to you, Mr. Superintendent Kalishman,
Right.
and take it away. This is like our favorite, apart from when we get the group that comes in at the end of the year to talk about colleges and where everybody winds up. This, I think, is the
The opening?
The second best meeting that we have.
All right, so can we get on that screen, can we get the slides?
Let me try.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so if you can start clicking here. So this is something we did a little bit different this year. We did a whole faculty staff picture after convocation, just because we're really trying to create that team collaborative environment between all of us. You know, it's no secret that I feel, and I've always said the teachers have the most important job in the district. We can have all the greatest ideas in the world as a principal or a superintendent, but we need talented staff to carry it out with the kids. And so we want to sort of share that vision with them. You can go to the next slide.
Are you going to put that on the website?
That's already on the website.
Oh, good.
That was a very cool picture.
So at the elementary school, we had quite a crew there. We had Chief Casada, obviously Miss Sanborn, Miss Horgan, Miss Driscoll, a bunch of teachers. We had Sora in the house, and the kids are so happy and the families are so happy. I love it. It is like a concert. Like it is, all the people walking down is so fun to see. But there were tremendous vibes, and then the kids already were getting into their claw, which is care for our community, learn every day, act responsibly, and work hard. So that's a picture of Miss Sanborn sort of giving that claw shape. And I was back in the elementary school again today for a little bit, and it kept on going. The traffic was smooth. I mean, just the jump from year one to year two is just from knowing what you didn't know the first year. It seems the space is still as beautiful as ever, and it was just running a little bit smoother than last year, I would say, for drop-off as well. So people are really happy with that.
Did you hear from any neighbors?
Not one person. No.
There we go.
Anybody else?
Great.
All right, we can go to the middle school. So fifth grade, a few years ago, we started having fifth grade come in a little bit later, 8:45 start on the first day, just so they, you know, when you come in the first day, there's always a locker issue, a scheduling issue, some sort of a glitch. So to give the fifth grade the attention that they deserve, we have them come in a little bit later, and then they go right to a meeting with administration in the little theater. And everybody else was there on time. Ms. Minter and Mr. Knowles talked about taking pride in their work, being collaborative and supportive, communicating and advocating for themselves clearly and respectfully, kindness, and as always, to try to get better daily. So I was able to catch some of that meeting as well. You can go to the high school.
How did it feel not being the?
I'm trying to give
Miss
Miss Minter a space. She actually said, so I went from the elementary school, and then the seniors gave me a T-shirt to run, and then I went from elementary school drop off to, I sprinted over to the high school, and by the time I got to the middle school, the fifth graders were done trickling in, and Miss Minter turns to me and says, "How hard was this for you?" And I said, "I'm trying to let go. I'm letting go." And I always say to her, like, this, you know, she's going to take it to the next level. She's going to take it further than even I did. So I'm thrilled for her and the new team there. Mrs. Otto, the energy level in the high school was contagious. It was electric. So I was here for this. She was really clear about the new set of standards that we have at the high school and all across the board that we're going to this. You know, we've always been great, but we're going to this level of excellence in and out of the classroom, that we're trying to create and expand opportunities for all our students, and identifying the spirit of our own Swampscott community, that our name means something. That, you know, one of the things that I've talked about is whether a kid graduates Swampscott High School and decides to go to the military or to the workforce or go to Harvard or Stanford or anything in between, they're the most prepared kids out there. I want our students to have this sort of competitive advantage to everybody else, that they feel prepared and that it means something coming from Swampscott High School, and she's reiterated that. And I think that I had a teacher tell me that it was, the atmosphere in the high school was electric, and that she hasn't felt like this in 30 years. So that to me means that good things are happening at Swampscott High School already. And I don't know who's dropped off. Drop-off is way better too. So we have quite a team out there waving people on, people pulling all the way up to the front, and today was the smoothest drop-off at the high school ever, perhaps, since the building started. So, yeah. Sorry, so, is this real wood? All right, we can go to the leadership retreat. So over the summer, we had our leadership retreat. Speaking of leaders, this is a picture of our class of 2026. They're our future leaders. And one of the things that the team talked about was we're on the cusp of bringing back the new teacher evaluation system, and we're just sort of, going through a couple little details, but we're there. We can talk about that later. Ms. Raymond goes over our bullying plan update. Ms. O'Connor was there with the SEA and our leadership team. We reviewed our handbooks. We had KP Law come and give a presentation about school law, and we took a METCO survey to see where we were and how we thought we were performing as far as our inclusivity goes. And really, I would say the main takeaway from the leadership retreat was sort of a shift in culture that we're going to be really, not a shift in culture, I shouldn't say that, but a emphasis on really being open and honest with each other and having each other's back and realizing that we're all better together and collectively. Nobody in the room has all the answers, and we need to rely on each other. And when we make a mistake, it's okay. We're gonna all make mistakes, and we have to lean on each other to sort of solve it. So that was, I would say, the main crux of the leadership retreat.
Can I ask you about the Medco part of it?
Sure.
When you, were you talking about Metco specifically, or were you talking about our students of color?
No, it was a survey from METCO.
Oh, from Metco.
From METCO,
Okay.
so that we did this, and
Because as you and I were talking about, it used to be that all of our students
Yeah.
of color were Metco students,
Yeah.
and now they're a minority.
75% of our students of color live in Swampscott.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And what did, do you know the outcome of that survey, or no?
It was all, we were arranged. I would say there were some things that Ms. Raymond might have I don't know if she's pulling it up right now, not to put you on the spot, but it was a wide range. It was, 20 questions or something like that, and we're making progress, so.
Metco's wants to have ranges 1.0, which is kind of where people started, 1.5, and then Metco 2.0. And we want to just kind of evaluate where we are, where we evaluate
It was a
ourselves.
self-evaluation.
And we did it as a group, which I thought was better than just doing it in isolation. So it got us to talk about the topics.
Can I ask you a question? Just out of curiosity, what did KP Law present?
So we went over, the reason I asked them to come in was just to talk mainly about ICE, to see what our rights were,
Yeah.
and what do we do in case. But then we really got into suspension letters and 37H, 37H and a half, 37H and 3/4, and everything in between. I mean, people had great questions.
And 37H, what are all those?
So really, it's about how long you can suspend somebody. It depends whether it's drugs or violence or just a regular suspension. So we have the right terminology for the right suspension.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Anybody else?
Okay, next slide. So this is big news. So along with getting the evaluation system back, this is just, sorry, you're gonna have to look at me talking to the girls soccer team and to the band last night. But we have department chairs back at the high school, and the middle school, which is a huge win. We did have to do it a little bit differently, and we had to do it fiscally responsibly. And so we don't have wellness or fine arts yet for this year. So this was a pilot year. We're trying this.
You don't have chairs.
We don't have chairs. Yes, we do not have the chairs. And the old department head at the high school did not have to teach a full caseload. Now they do. So again, this is a one-year pilot we're trying. And we combine the world language between the middle school and the high school because it's a small department.
Right.
So again, I just have to stress that even though there's no department head for wellness or fine arts, it does not mean that we don't value wellness and fine arts. It just really came down to sort of budgetarily what we could handle in this year.
How did the union respond to the changes, particularly the fact that they're carrying a full caseload now?
I think they handled it.
I mean, obviously it was
I think they discussed
approved,
it. Yeah,
so-
it really, they understood the need for the department heads and that the high school will be way more efficient and run more effectively with department heads. And I don't think Sarah was part of a huge part of the discussions, and
We also worked on the job description.
yes, we
So
tweaked it a little bit.
We gave up some things and, we negotiated and I think it was great. I mean, we went through the job description and took out some of the things that either our modern technology kind of takes care of anyway. Or, we shortened the list of what they need to do.
And there were things,
And,
quite frankly, sorry, I was just going to say, quite frankly, from the day I became, so 14 years ago when I started, it was the same.
Same list.
Same list. So things that we probably should have looked at years
Yeah.
ago that weren't necessary.
And are they all identified?
Yes.
The leaders?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you announce, like, is it worth announcing them, or? You
I,
wanna wait?
well, I think I'll wait.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, the next slide. Okay, so this is actually when I, budget update, I said this one hurts because this is when I got bit by the dog at the block party, so Brian had to help me out there. So as much as, you know, it was great that the town fully funded us for what we asked for, obviously, and almost immediately afterwards, the federal government took away some title grants. So it's a 39% reduction from last year. So I just think that's good for everybody to know and everybody to realize that despite the fact that we got the additional money from the town, that we took a hit from the federal government. Cheryl, when Ms. Stella comes back, she'll give a thorough review of our finances, but this is just sort of so everybody realizes.
So do we have a temporary stopgap kind of plan? Or is it just to spend as usual and deal with it as?
So I think one of the things we've done, I spoke with every principal, and we were really smart about who we hired and had to be mindful about that. Now, obviously, there are times where you have to,
Right.
if special ed or if there's a, you know, sometimes a science or a math teacher at the high school, you might have to go over budget, but we really did a good job hiring. So we're not in the clear by any stretch, but had this not happened, we would have been in pretty good shape. Yeah.
And we have some savings, I think, that we've realized with the management team, just because we've got so many new faces, correct?
That was part of the savings as well, the hiring. Yeah, so all hiring, yeah, I should say. Yep.
I mean, should I just say that, just so everybody knows that this is, that 39% is a true reduction in dollars. That's a true top of the line reductions in dollars.
Yeah. And I would say also that even though we got the money we asked for, it doesn't mean we.
From the town.
From the town, doesn't mean we got what we needed. I mean, we do, we've had the discussion about the health teacher in the middle school for years. There are other positions within the school department that we go without and that would be extremely helpful, but this certainly did not help. Yeah. Next slide is us in the community over the summer. We had everything from, you know, we did a table at the farmer's market, we did a table at the block party, I talked to the youth football team, I went to the senior center for OMA, I've talked to select board members, Chief Casada, Chief Archer, Mr. Cresta, a various amount of teams and clubs. I was with the band last night, and we're meeting with drama next week. We're just trying to get anybody that we can get in front of, really, to talk about how we value them and we need their support. And we want the kids to feel ownership in the school. So that's why we're hitting all the clubs and all the teams as far as the high school goes, and even the youth programs, about that it means something to participate in the extracurriculars, and you have to be a good teammate and be a good teammate. That means on and off the field, in and out of the theater, in class too. You know, if you're going to sign up for these things, then you can't be late to class, and you have to be on time to school and work hard and be a leader here. So we talked about Ms. Otto and Ms. Kelly being a new administrative team at the high school, and they need people to step up. And without a doubt, I do think that the kids are looking to lead, and they want to be part of that solution. Yeah, they were tremendous.
Can I just say, I think it's great that you're visiting with all audiences, not just some of the sports teams, which I do think sometimes are just maybe easier to deal with. But I think it's great that you're going to, you know, the other clubs, the other, well, again, drama or band, whatever that is, because I think that's what builds community, right? And I think also that's what, and you and I talk about this a lot, that's what builds equity.
Yeah.
And I think that's really on the forefront, I know, in my mind for this year.
And Ms. Otto and I also spoke at the family sports information night, just because that was such a big crowd. It was nice to sort of get our message across to a lot of people there.
Great.
Well, thank you to all of your team for participating in these community events, because it's
Yeah,
certainly
above
on
and
your-
beyond. They went above and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, it's your personal time, it's the weekends, so all of you, it's appreciated.
I will say, it did cost me quite a few bucks, because every time my kids came by, the block party and, okay, the block party and the farmer's market, it was ridiculous. So, yeah.
Throwing money at the problem.
Yeah. So, And then the last slide I have is that, I don't know how many of you know this, but we've worked hard in the background to bring back the SEF. When you said your generation parents about the Big Blue Bargains, like same thing here.
Right.
So we have some leaders bringing back the SEF, which is something I started working on, I think, since I was announced as the next superintendent. And we have we're starting off small, but we have our first Family Fun Fest on Sunday the 7th from 3 to 6 at Linscott Park. And we're just trying to, again, build community, raise some funds, raise some awareness, get families involved, and then we're going to plan our next, hopefully, big event.
Great.
Yeah. But we have some tremendous parent volunteers that are helping with us.
Will that be like branded with the SEF so that people sort of recognize that that's not coming from the schools per se, but from a private organization?
So we had QR codes and flyers at both the block party and the farmers market. It's going out in, I know the middle school's the Scoop. I don't know I should know what everybody else calls their newsletters, but their newsletters, and it's going to be SEF event.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the more people that we can get engaged in that,
Right.
the better.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that's coming back. I think it's great.
I think people want to help, and I do see that parents want the schools to be funded properly and are willing to do whatever it takes to help, so.
Well, I would extend that and say that, we know that we have a tremendous amount of people who volunteer in the schools, and I think this is a great way for the rest of the community to get involved. I know I was mentioning the comeback of this to somebody who doesn't have kids, won't have kids, and have been in the community for a long time, and the idea of eventually having parties or other ways to earn money. I know that there are other people who are excited to participate in that. So
Yeah.
it's exciting.
And when Joe said that he's seen me 3 or 4 times the last 2 days, I am running ideas by him about how we can tastefully and tactfully use the Swampscott Auditorium to bring in some additional revenue as well.
Great.
Yeah.
We like revenue.
Just let me know when you're sick of me, Joe. I'll stop swinging by. And that's it for the superintendent's report.
Okay, we next have our brand-new Director of Teaching and Learning, who's not so brand-new because she's been working her tail off all summer. Do you have you do have a microphone, okay.
Yes, and hold on one sec, let me just share my slides.
You just maybe introduce yourself for the few people who are watching us.
Just get that going, okay. Good evening, my name is Sarah Kent. I'm the new Director of Teaching and Learning. Been at it for about 2 months now. Seems a lot quicker than that, but I've enjoyed every minute. It's been really great to get to know everyone I'm trying really hard with names. I'm not there yet, believe me, but I've learned a few kids that walk by my door already, and a lot of faculty, but not everybody yet. So I'm here this evening just to quickly sort of update you and share with you what we did the week of the 19th, 20th, and 21st with the new teachers. So when they came, we laid out the purpose of the new teacher orientation, and that was basically making sure that they understood the vision and providing opportunities to connect with the schools and the community, but mostly to build relationships were the major purpose of the gathering. And the goals were to provide access to important resources, including key people, tools, and documents, building a foundation for the ongoing professional development that they're going to receive throughout the year, and to set them up for a successful first week of school. So by the numbers, it takes a village to onboard new educators to a district, especially when they are K to 12. So we had 19 new educators that came over the 3 days, but we had 8 administrators who presented on their areas of expertise. And we had a lot of other administrators who came to welcome them or smile and introduce themselves, et cetera. But the 8 administrators, including principals, assistant superintendents, directors, were all involved. There were 7 teachers who presented on their own time in the summer, including the SEA Executive Board came and presented. And one of the biggest highlights that I'll talk about a little bit more in a few minutes is we had 7 high school students gave their advice on a student panel. We had a range of topics. Sorry for sort of the splatter of topics here, but it gives you an idea of all the different things we spread out over the 3 days. Most were about 45 minutes, some were a little longer, depending. But we kind of hit the highlights. But mostly what I was hoping that they would take away from this is the people, right? They can associate a face with these topics and know who to go to talk to, or ask about things, or just seek advice. So the student panel was new this year. It's something that I brought from my previous work. In the past, we've done a trolley tour of Swampscott, and when I looked at the list of, at that point, 17 people, like 8 of them lived in Swampscott. So I was like, why are we doing a trolley tour for people? Plus, we're a small community. I think we can do that. So instead, we invited 7 high school students to come and share with the educators, and we went for a diverse group. We had, we didn't have any freshmen because, they're transitioning, but we had sophomores, juniors, seniors. We had someone from Nahant, we had an athlete, we had a band person, we had, all kinds of different backgrounds, and we asked them some questions. And so the way that we set it up, it wasn't like a panel like you are all sitting there, where each person speaks. The way we did it was more of a fishbowl, where the students sat in the middle and sort of had a restorative justice type circle where we had a talking piece. I sent them the questions ahead so they knew what was coming, but they would answer a question when or if they wanted to, if they felt comfortable. So one might start, and then someone else might take it and say, oh, I agree, but I add on, or somebody else might say, no, my experience is different, but it was more of a conversation between them instead of more of a formal, everybody says their piece. And I was really, really, really proud of them. They were really honest and open and took some risks, and in the exit ticket, knocked everything else out of the park. All the new educators found it extremely valuable.
Wow, great.
So I know you're going to ask, so I'm going to tell you what the questions were. I won't tell you all the answers, but first they just introduced themselves and how they define themselves and what their schooling experience was. I went to Hadley, I went to Clark, or I came here my sophomore year of high school, or that kind of thing. Round 2 was, what is something you wish teachers knew about students when you were in elementary, middle, or high school? That was an interesting response. Round 3 was, reflect on a time where your individual experience or perspective was not understood or heard in the classroom. How did that impact you as a person and a learner? Some great stories came there. And then round 4, they had two options. One was, what advice would you give to a new educator? Or, what has an educator done that has positively impacted your experience in school? Round 5 is, what do you desire to accomplish in your future? Some had very clear vision and some had no idea, which was fine. And then the last one was interesting, which was, imagine you could wave a magic wand to strengthen equity relationships and, I can't see, deepen learning in our district. What would you change and why? So those were, yes, there's some big questions there. That's why I sent them to them ahead of time so that they could, but they had all obviously thought about it. As I said, not every student spoke on every question, and it was a great conversation. Then the new educators got to turn and talk with, and then ask a few questions of the panel them as well.
Did you have a lot of your staff there, or no?
Yeah, in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but particularly for this?
Yeah, we were there.
I was not there for that.
So I was there.
I will go next year.
Emily was there.
Emily
It just
was
sounds
there,
so
Emily was
valuable.
there, I was
Sam,
there,
and
Sam was there, yeah.
And Jason
It
and I.
just sounds so valuable.
Yeah, it was, the kids were incredible, and the group of new teachers, they were impressive as well.
Yeah, I really want to thank Rachel Sturma, who did the lion's share of the recruitment. Since I don't have relationships with kids yet, she really did the yeoman's work on getting them to come and, making them say, this is good, this is going to be okay, this is going to be good. So she did a lot of work setting it up for me.
And you had really good feedback from the new teachers? Were they just like, wow, this is the most professional thing we've ever been to? I mean, like every year, this new teacher orientation gets longer and more robust, right? And it's
Yeah,
it
actually,
doesn't
Well-
feel like anything is a waste of time.
try not to, yeah.
It got shorter and more.
It got shorter. I cut a day off, just because it was getting, I think it was too much. When I was doing my entry, talks with everybody, they were like, too long,
Yeah.
too long.
We're gonna lose people.
So,
They're gonna
yeah.
say, I have to be here for 4 days in
Yeah.
August, I'm out.
Yeah. So let me just share a couple more things and I'll be done. The other thing we talked a lot about were instructional practices, and which are some of the things that, from my seat, I wanted to definitely talk about. And I started with what are the 5 adjectives that describe, an educator that impacted you the most as the new educators. And this, I thought you'd be interested in the wordle that was created with what they said. And then we talked about, well, how do you do that? How do you become that person for kids? And we talked a lot about some of the, the priorities of the district, which is, it doesn't matter. What matters isn't what you teach, it's what they learn, right? And so we talked about teaching and learning cycles where we reflect and use assessments to adapt instruction. We talked about multi-tiered systems of support, both helping our struggling learners, but also pushing our advanced students. And then we also talked about levels of rigor and making sure that we get into level 3 and 4, the strategic thinking and extended thinking, because that's what jobs really need these days. You got to have level 1 and level 2 to do things, but you need those kinds of higher order thinking skills in order to succeed in the workforce. So there was a lot of positive quotes. I'm not going to read them to you. You can do that on your own, but these are just taken straight from the exit tickets. I think the best one is, I now feel very confident stepping into my new role at SPS. But there's a lot of, great accolades for a lot of the folks that, presented and spent time. And I'll share that with them. I did send the students an email yesterday with some quotes about the student panel for them. And then data speaks, right? I actually just got another one this morning. These are only 11 of the 19 have responded, but I asked the big question of how did we do, making you feel excited to be part of SPS, supported and valued. And even the one that came in today was number 12. We went 12 for 12 on very. I kind of opened it up, do I want to look? But it was great. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just a quick one. You mentioned, I think it was 19 new educators. I'm just curious, is it kind of a mix of experienced people? This is their first job kind?
Yep,
Talk
I
about
would
that.
say it's interesting, a lot of I would call them transfers from local districts, but a lot of districts that have had a lot of strikes and turnover. We had someone from Gloucester, a couple from Marblehead, a lot of places where they really, I think that's why they felt so supported and valued. And, you'll see in the comments, administration is here for the teachers. And it was fun to hear both, administration and the union and teachers talk about how well everybody collaborates in Swampscott and, did interest-based bargaining and, all of that. It was very positive. So yes, I would say, we've got some that have some experience and others that are young.
To add to that, Sarah invited me to come and just do a welcome. It was like 5 minutes, and one of the things that I talked about was how excited the school committee was to really be on the same page as the administration and be on the same page as our educators through the union board. And it was reassuring because the union had been there the day before and basically said the same thing. So nothing better to show cohesion than a cohesive message that was unplanned. So I was very proud of that. And yeah, it was exciting to see people who look fresh out of school and people who look like they're more seasoned. So, but even though there's 19, it's importantly, we have not raised the numbers. That's 19 sort of replacements. Those are not This is all budgeted.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would just remind you that that's teachers. We also have a lot of tutors and ABA tutors and, ABA stuff like that. But this was just the teaching staff.
Any-
I was actually going to ask the same thing John does. I think it's exciting, because I think, like we were talking about earlier with, new superintendent, new staff, whether they're fresh out of college and have big eyes, or they're coming from a district, local or not local, it just brings a different energy.
Yeah.
Different vibe. And I think that's great. I think this looks fantastic, and thank you very much, Sarah, for doing this.
I did not do it alone. There were a lot of people involved.
Right?
Great, thanks.
All right. Now this is where I start to feel really rusty as the school committee chair. So the first, and unfortunately, there's no link here to discuss, but I think one of the most important things that we have to do as a follow-up to our meeting this summer is to talk about our school committee goals and outline what our goals are for 2025 through 26. I know that I looked at this last week with Nancy, and at the time, it felt like the right place to do this, but as I sit here now, I realize that I think some of this has to really be in tandem with you and what your entry plan is gonna look like. I don't know if anybody else has,
Yeah, I remember when we had a workshop, we talked about that, like, sort of, dovetailing goals, or at least, aligning at least some of the goals.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially with a new superintendent, that we should all be aligned. That kind of goes back to the whole synergy, to make sure everyone is on the same page.
I have on my list of things that we agreed to that was specific for goal setting for the 5 of us, is looking at technology. And I've already spoken with LaTanya Mackey-Knowles about this, and making sure that we are less rusty than we have been. And I think that is sort of translates across the board in terms of how we use, how we use what the district is using online, so that we're doing the same thing that you and your staff are doing, and holding us to the same standards. And, using the Google suite of products. Help me out, anybody chime in. We also talked about a communications plan specifically for the school committee, and what does that mean? And so we agreed that, rather than just sort of diving in and creating a plan, that over the next month or so, that we'll discuss, what we think the priorities need to be. What's the difference between what does the school committee communicate versus what does the district communicate? Because that's sort of morphed over the years. And then the last was, because it is, and I say this without having had any other conversations about it, with the advent of a new superintendent, really looking at the kinds of support relationships that the district has. So things like relooking at our legal counsel, which is something that we haven't looked at in a decade. So those are the 3 things that are on our docket for the coming month or so, and I will work to make sure that that's part of our agendas, but more importantly, that we have enough time in our agendas to actually sit and have real discussion about it. So I need all of you to help hold me to that, and if you feel like it's not happening, to push it a little bit with me. I know that I can get a little overwhelmed, so focusing on the details is something that I want all of us to really to do. I think that this is a time with our new superintendent to really reset our school committee. Obviously, Miguel doesn't have to reset since he's brand new. But, you know, I think it's a, you know, having such an experienced board also brings sometimes a lack of rigor, if that's fair. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, if I'm speaking at a school, or if anybody wants to add anything.
So Amy, what's helpful? Do you think drafting these goals and then listening to the superintendent's entry plan and sort of maybe modifying the goals a little bit, or incorporating something? I mean, I think like we have to get something on paper, right? It's like something for us to look at,
For sure.
right?
And
But I think that I'm remembering more as you just discussed those things. Like those three things are irrespective of who's sitting in this seat,
Right.
basically. But I think that also, so didn't we set goals too for like the superintendent, or for, those are superintendent goals. Those weren't, like, didn't
Yes.
we talk about our goals for the district?
So,
Like,
the next step in terms of the overarching goals for the district is gonna be based on the entry plan.
right.
And we've talked about the timing of that, and I know that you're good to go whenever, you know, whenever we say, great, let's start in on it. And I held off doing it tonight because of the pressures that were on you for the first day of school.
Yeah.
So I would like to start digging into that at our next meeting, if that makes sense to everybody.
So then these goals sort of continue to be irrelevant to overarching goals. Like, these are truly our goals that are just for this board and not for this district.
Yeah, they're
So-
our promise to one another.
So I'm gonna volunteer to type something up,
Okay,
and then I'm gonna give it to you, and then we'll have a draft to discuss.
if you'd like my
Because-
notes, I'll give you my notes. If not,
Yeah, I mean, I might have taken them, but yeah, if you have them
Okay.
somewhere that are easy to pass to me.
Yeah.
Because I think like we should just, I mean, this is
I think
low-hanging fruit to check off and
Yeah.
just like get started on, right?
yeah. And, you know, I think that dovetails really well into the next thing, which is our school committee protocols. So unless anybody has anything that they want to add to this.
Actually, I got one more question
Yeah.
just before we move on. So I guess just from a logistics standpoint, so Suzanne's going to put some draft together. Is that going to be shared with all of us?
Yeah.
So we can all,
I mean, I'll put it in the drive that we're all gonna be using, based on like what Ms. Nacky Knowles is teaching. I mean, yes, yeah. of
all right,
course.
that sounds good. And we'll bring it back here and have an open discussion.
Yeah, I think we have to have an open discussion about it.
That sounds good.
And
I mean, it'll be on the agenda, right? And it'll be
Yeah.
shared in the agenda anyway.
Well, it sounds like the biggest challenge here is to find it in that folder, so.
We're gonna
So-
do
Taught how to do it the right way.
So one of the things also that is sort of tangent to this is our physical setup, and I know that I had said that I would talk to Joe Dulett, and I did not. Was talking really sort of just about the physical setup of this meeting, and the way that I have looked at how other towns conduct themselves, and sort of did a comparison. And, you know, one of the things that it strikes me is that we're really set up this way, not to have a discussion with one another, but to have a discussion with the audience, which isn't here for the most part. And so, you know, I'm open to any kinds of ideas, and I'm gonna talk to Joe about it as well, but I would like to see some way that, you know, we are in a position where we're actually working with one another and having real conversations, and not as a dais.
I think we can close this arch up to be
Right.
more of like, you know, a U.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
like, for example, in Salem, which is a city, they have their room, which is set up, and they have all the desks facing one another, with, I think the chair sort of sits at one end or the other, and it really is debate. So you know, for me, that was appealing, because you know, this way, we're not set up for that.
Right.
So,
But I think also we're constricted by like the rooms and the cameras before, and we're not anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be easier to, I mean, I would never want someone's back to, I mean,
Right.
it'd have to be an open whatever, but I think that.
But I think that there's a way that we can bring it together a little
Yeah,
more.
I mean. these tables-
That's a great idea. I was actually, and we had talked about it, and I watched Salem. I was out in Lenox for a few days, and I happened to walk in, we had dinner, and they were showing their local, whatever, select board, whatever, and they do the tight U with the chair, as you said, on one side, and and although we do talk, there was much more discussion. What they would do is, if someone had a presentation, they would just kind of move their chairs back, leave the desks the same, move their chairs back so they could see what was going on, and then go back to have that discussion. And I think it's a great idea. I think, and we, you know, we try it, it doesn't work, we come back to this. But I think it's a good idea.
So
Yeah,
I
I was
will,
just gonna add to that, yeah, let's try and see, you know, we do like 4 meetings or something.
yeah, clearly nothing's set in stone. so-
Right.
And
Exactly.
since Glenn mentioned the word chairs, I mean, it sounds like I'm kidding, I'm actually really not here.
Yes.
If there's anything that could be done for these chairs, going forward,
Yeah, I don't know how that happens, about just how awful these chairs are.
What's wrong with them?
They're just
Oh,
really
yeah.
beaten up and uncomfortable and.
Yeah, it's wicked uncomfortable.
You know what? It's your incentive to get the meetings done. Like, you know how you don't make your bed too comfortable for guests? Just saying.
so, I know, you opened the door, so thank you for
Well,
letting me
yeah.
run on
I do
through.
think it's a great idea,
Okay,
little change.
all right. Next up is the school committee protocols. So, we discussed this at our meeting, and I am pretty confident, because I don't have any notes otherwise, that we're sort of all in agreement that this is not in need of editing.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So I would like to take a vote and approve this and sign this and be a committee here in Swampscott that can agree on the basics of how we treat each other and how to work as a committee and how to treat our school. So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the Swampscott School Committee Operations Protocols for 2025, 2026.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Do you have a copy of it with you?
Not a physical copy.
Here.
It's on the,
Susan.
It's on the agenda.
I just think it's worth just mentioning if anyone's watching or recording or whatever.
Do you want to go through it at a high level?
Really, really at a high level, I think it's important that this is on the school
Sure.
committee's website.
Mhm.
Okay.
And these protocols sort of delineate how we govern, how we treat each other, how we communicate, how we will improve ourselves, the limit of our authority, and when things go wrong, how do we agree to rectify the situation? And it's just something that we evaluate ourselves on every year. And we try to have honest discussions about what went wrong and areas of strengths and weaknesses. And then this year, we had a representative from the MASC sort of go through our goals with us, and she was pretty positive that they were good goals and pretty comprehensive. So I mean, I feel good about them, but I just want people to understand that this is like how we monitor ourselves for respectful behavior and that kind of stuff.
Not to make any one thing stick out, but one of the things that I did say at the new teacher orientation was that the school committee is committed to not interfering with the day-to-day operations of our schools, and that we, want to follow a chain of command, which is to, when we get phone calls and complaints, to make sure that they don't begin with us, but that they begin where they should be. And I know that your staff really appreciates that, whether it's, the teacher or the coach, and then explaining what the protocol is and how really coming to us is the last resort, because by the time it gets to us, it's either been it doesn't get to us because it's gotten taken care of, or it comes to us because it's a big policy issue. So that's what I said, if you're feeling otherwise, that any school committee members are meddling in their day-to-day, that they should feel free to speak directly to Superintendent Kalishman about it, and he'll bring that up with us.
Yep. I'll just add that I know during our workshop when we were going over this, it was just kind of great to hear from the representative that there were like good things that were outlined, that hearing from other districts that may not have something similar, and that we were a little bit ahead in some of our ways of how we treat each other with respect, and how we also outline how we communicate with each other and how we really handle our differences in discussions where it's not about the person, but more about the substance of the policy or anything like that. So it was kind of great to just see all of that.
So I think what I'd like to do then is take a vote on the content of that, and then, since you do have a hard copy, just have everybody sign it afterwards. So all in favor? That's unanimous. Thanks. So let's, we'll get it, we'll sign it, and if you can bring that to Ms. Kelly, and she can get that all filed. And yeah, we would love to have that on our page, on the school committee page. You do have.
Oh, I signed it too?
You sign it as well.
Okay, sorry about that.
Mostly just to acknowledge that we have this acknowledgement amongst one another, between us. Yay, us.
Right, absolutely, yes.
Okay, so next we have to discuss subcommittee appointments. Let me just open this up.
You need this, yeah.
Yeah, it's not opening the way that the other things open. Okay, so this is how we have it set up from last year, which was that John and I took the lead on bargaining. There was nobody in particular for budget and finance. We did not have a communications, because we haven't had a communications in a dozen years. Policy was John and Suzanne, and wellness was Suzanne. So this year, we're looking at bargaining. I think it's important to remember that having the chair doesn't mean that they're doing in all of these things, doesn't mean that they're doing all of the work, but particularly in bargaining, because we do a committee of the whole, and we all participate in the collective bargaining. I think it's just sort of two people as point of contact who are just making sure that we're on track. Does anybody want to throw their hat in the ring for that? What does everybody think?
Wasn't this the one that also was gonna have some sort of follow-up on the teacher agreement? Yeah, some of those takeaways, right?
Yeah, so the teacher evaluation, and I think stipends, which also hasn't been reviewed.
And then the other thing too, we wanted to, it was suggested to us that we've had many, many years of just addendums to the contract, to bring everything together under a real roof.
I believe that's happening.
Oh, great.
I believe that has happened already with the two, with the
tutor.
paras and the
ESP.
ESPs.
The tutors and
Thank you. The
ESPs.
tutors and the ESPs.
Great.
Thank
That's
you.
good.
And everybody should have that in their
Great.
emails.
Good.
Okay, so rather than go line by line, I'm going to say, does anybody have a love for this, that they would like to jump in and do anything in particular?
Just for me, I'd love to do budget and finance. that's okay with you. And I'll do the CPAC again as well.
Okay. I thought you would throw your hat in the ring for that.
But budget and finance, that's the contact, but we're still doing the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I heard you say it, but I'm just.
I did say it about bargaining. I did not say it about budget and finance. It really is budget, not so
Right.
much finance.
Yeah.
And again, I think that it's a person really who just sort of holds our feet to the fire and makes sure that we're doing what we all say that we're supposed to be doing. Anybody want to do anything? You remind me, you were on a committee that you had to step out of.
Yeah, the, community,
It's the meeting about,
community facility,
oh,
and exploring,
Yeah.
senior center, rec center.
oh, I was thinking about the one about exploring voting.
Oh, I'm still on that one. That one's gonna end, that one has an end date that, for town meeting. And I think that one's, actually, they're both really well underway. It's just a matter of joining and being part of a quorum.
I feel like there was a meeting that you put me in touch, or you put us in touch, and that I was gonna fill in until we figured out.
How'd that go, Amy?
It hasn't happened. It was the end of the month, so.
The
we're-
other one that you were talking about, Amy, they actually did meet and they had a presentation about wanting to build a spot, it was in the paper, for like a rec center for kids. And
Oh,
they had mentioned Clark School, middle school, Phillips Park. I definitely think that's something that someone on this board should be part of.
I wonder if that's what I was supposed to be at. Is that what I was supposed to be at?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Powell was.
No, it's okay. You know what, they were putting an RFQ out for a consultant to help sort of define, collect data and survey the community and
So
yada,
it
yada, yada.
includes the survey of the community.
So they're pretty far along.
Okay.
They've done a lot of stuff, right? And they've done a lot of investigations and read things from other communities and stuff like that. So it's well underway. I mean, it's an exploratory committee.
Okay,
So,
all right. I
Yeah.
should go through my emails.
yeah, I mean, at one point it was a big committee, and I think that they were having trouble getting a quorum, so I stepped off because I was like, just said, we don't have someone right now, so
Okay.
don't count us in or out, so that they could.
So that they could get a quorum.
Yeah,
Okay,
so, there's a spot because there's supposed to be a school committee rep.
okay. Does anybody want to do
And
that?
I can't, it's like, it conflicts with the other meeting a lot of the times, and just, it's not working
Didn't
for
work.
me.
When do they meet?
I'm not really sure.
feel like
The summer
like
was
it was
a
a
little weird for
Monday.
them, but I feel like it was Monday.
Right, yeah, I think it was Monday evenings, once a month.
Once a month, once every other month. I mean, once a month, I think. It's really not a heavy lift,
Hmm.
but they do need someone to show up, because if you're on it, they need to make a quorum to take their votes.
Yes, I messed up. It was Monday. My bad, my apologies.
It's okay. It's the summer. No one has a schedule.
So, I'm happy to do that. Let's start with the easy one, wellness. Are you still interested in doing that?
Yeah, that's an easy one. That's a 4 time a year,
Okay,
runs itself. Martha Raymond's on it, so.
right. There we go,
All I have to do is
Suzanne.
nod my head.
Okay. How about the most difficult one, policy?
Yeah, I'm happy to stay on it.
Yes.
This will be my last time, so we're gonna really need to teach someone else how to do it. Or,
I can tag along.
we're gonna, yay!
Ring the bell.
Did you see that evil eye? Like,
I don't think that was an evil eye.
Wasn't-
That was
it wasn't a very
That was a
encouraging eye.
hopeful, that was a hopeful eye.
it was a mother saying,
It's a great way.
you owe it to me to do it.
It's a great way to learn actually how, like, the district really works.
Oh, just tell him what he
The
wants
other
to
great,
hear.
the other great part about it is it requires a fair amount of very basic technology. So I have faith in you.
If it required a lot, I would have faith in you too.
So,
Did she say that?
Amy, I would sit on the bargaining if someone was sitting.
okay, Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So last is the communications, and I think that I would like to, I think we need to talk more about this and about what it means before anybody owns it, per se, because it might not be something that's owned. If we are sort of sticking with the status quo, which has been that the school committee is not and should not be newsmaking, and that any news should come out of the schools and the superintendent. But, I'm willing to relook at that, and if people have ideas, or, especially over the last year, there's been a lot. So I don't know if anybody wants to kind of relook at what our stance has been and make some recommendations. So can we?
I think it involves someone doing some research with the MASC to really hear about what the do's and the don'ts are, and how to avoid don'ts, and how to do if there's any district doing the do's right. Because I think that we always talk about it being a slippery slope.
Okay, so I will, I'll do that. I will do some preliminary research so that when we.
I just think that will help frame a conversation.
Yeah, so that when we do have a conversation, we'll have some information. Okay.
Another one of the reasons I think that maybe we should consider it is, as we get towards budget season, and I always feel that we just as a group, because, we don't have the attendance that a select group has, is that, our budget needs are maybe not as apparent and as in the news as the towns. And again, I know it's a little bit of a slippery slope, but if it's something that the other towns do, I think it's not a bad idea if we had, when there's news, and like we're talking about budget in November or December, I think it'd be nice to let the community know, other than just, something here where, realistically not a lot of people watch. Until the very end when, people say, well, I didn't know there was a budget issue.
So I would see that more as a question of how do we communicate, and not necessarily do we need a communications committee. Because what we, if we're gonna do a newsletter, it has to be something that actually has news consistently so that people read it.
Right.
Otherwise, when you send out a newsletter once a year, it's not even remotely helpful.
Right.
So I think that's a good idea, Suzanne. I will start by talking to our field rep at the MSCA and come back with some ideas and some recommendations, and we'll take it from there. Anybody have anything they want to add to anywhere?
So,
You want to do finance and budget with me?
yeah, I was gonna say, I can do that, and I was gonna offer it up to Suzanne, just for consideration here. I think it's great that Miguel steps in. I know we have a huge backlog to go through, to update. I'm happy to be the third guy on this thing to help get through that in this.
We can't do that.
We can't
Can't do that?
third
No,
guy.
that's a
You want to be the
quorum.
first guy?
If you want me to, I will, but I.
You know what, I think it's fine, I think I'm okay, I think there's a lot of stuff already set up to go through, and it might be nice to have a fresh eye, just look at how it's set up and see if it's the right way to go forward, and I think be productive. I mean, I think like the spreadsheets and the folders that are set up right now.
That's fine with me,
Can,
You're not sad about that, right?
Well, I mean, we'll get a chance to look at them anyway. But I do know there's quite a backlog with all the
Yes.
union stuff last year.
Okay.
Earlier this year.
All right, so that's that. You can give that to Nancy, that would be terrific. So we need to formally appoint our superintendent to be on the board of the North Shore Education Consortium. annually, it's the school committee's responsibility to appoint our superintendent to the board at the collaborative. So this is for the 25-26 school year. Candidly, I'm not sure we've ever done this before.
I was gonna say, I never remember.
And
I'll make a motion.
yeah, I would have thought that they would actually have to vote him on, because I would think that it's pretty obvious who represents us. But I will accept a motion to approve Superintendent Kalishman as the,
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
I'll
okay.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is unanimous, or the vote is unanimous. Superintendent Kalishman, you
Thanks, I did it.
have your marching orders.
Have you gone to one yet?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are they all superintendents, or do people have designees? Like, could you have a designee instead if, like, this gets to be too cumbersome for you because you're?
It's a great question. I was under the impression it was all superintendents, but
Okay,
I'd have to
I was
check.
just wondering why we vote you, like, and not someone else, or a designee or something, just.
I don't know if it's just the law that we have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, Superintendent Angelakis was the
Yeah,
chair of the
different
board
times
for a
different
while.
times she was the chair. Yeah, I just didn't know.
I did we had like a training, 2-hour training that was really interesting, and so I'm in like the learning phase of this, I would say. So,
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing organization.
yeah. Yeah.
Needs a lot of money.
All right, so with that, we'll move into our subcommittees. And we have our wellness policy.
Can someone pull that up? It's nice that Ms. Raymond is here, but, so the wellness committee is, the school nurses, Megan Rivera's, wait, I don't even know if they're all the same, are they all the same school nurses? Okay, so Megan Ramirez, Ann Hudson, Jennifer Miller, and Emily Silly, and then we have a community member, Barbara Kaufman, and then from the school, it's Miss Raymond, Miss Lavender, Cindy Lavender, and Maureen Kellett, and then I'm the school committee person, and this is a mandatory committee that we have to have, and mostly we have to have it so that the cafeteria or the food services gets the USDA,
Approval.
package
Yeah.
of food or whatever. So we're a little late, that we should have approved this earlier,
Oh.
probably in the spring, I think. But, so Ms. Kellett's just waiting for the newest version of this.
Okay,
And so as a committee, we went through it and sort of just fixed up some of the headers or just whatever, and we added a paragraph. Is it up? Can someone pull it up? Like, it's on the agenda.
I'm
It's just gonna-
trying to get it up here.
Anyway, we added this whole section called Healthy School Environment. It just says the Swampscott Public Schools provide safe, healthy, well-maintained surroundings that are tobacco, alcohol, and drug-free, and foster a culture of caring, empathy, respect, and responsibility. That wasn't in there before. And then also, so we added that, and then also,
it seems very straightforward.
yeah, it's really straightforward. We took out a sentence saying, under nutrition guidelines, specify that its guidelines will be based on nutrition goals and not profit motives. It's pretty much said in plenty of other places in this. And then, under additional wellness goals, I mean, we, instead of saying other school-based activities, we did additional wellness goals. And took out that first paragraph and just sort of kept the bullets. And I think that it was really great discussions we had, because I think that Miss Silly is gonna be great at kind of corralling everyone to really talk about protocols that are in each school about parties and lunch and foods that are going to those things, and just making sure that everyone has protocols up to date. So, I don't know, anything else to add? It's,
I don't think so. I think just not putting the protocols in the policy, but
Yeah.
saying that we should have protocols.
yeah, like,
and then
we looked at a lot
reviewing
of
them.
other policies, and we started like, let's change ours, let's make it more robust, and we're like, we did full circle and came back to, why are we reinventing the
That's
wheel?
sort of, I mean, that's what we did with the cell phone policy.
Yeah.
Or, it's
So-
like, we always do that, like, we add and then we finally
So-
realize.
So
come
this
back.
policy we need to vote on.
Okay,
And it's just like the concussion policy, right? Just like I don't want to say rubber stamp, but it's just something you need to just review and make sure it's up to date, and this one just like is a legal requirement.
So it doesn't reflect it here, but I would like to, going forward, rather than doing all of the actions and votes at the end, take them as they occur, so that it's fresh and we have all of the discussion then and there. So with that, I would like to take a vote on the wellness policy. If somebody, Suzanne wants to make the motion, since it's yours.
Oh, I'm happy to make a motion to approve ADF School District Wellness Program.
I will second.
All right, all in favor? It's unanimous, approved. And then we have the concussion policy, required every 2 years, due the 25th of September.
Just to post this on the MASC website, just make sure that date gets updated.
Okay.
You can take this.
I'll take that.
So like before, this is a requirement that the school committee review the concussion policy and send a letter to the Department of Public Health every 2 years, and this year is the year. Are there any substantive changes?
I honestly, I sometimes miss, Wolf comes and talks about it. I haven't, to my knowledge, nothing has changed since the last time. And I know she has a pretty robust concussion handbook
Yeah,
and with protocols,
Yeah.
so I'm 100% certain that she's had, that document is in line with this policy. So
All right.
we wouldn't touch it unless she told us to do something.
all right, so I will entertain a motion to approve policy JJIF, concussion policy.
So are we going to have a discussion? I have a couple questions on this one.
Well, so
Oh.
let's make a motion,
Yep.
I'll second it.
okay? Any discussion?
So I guess I'd want to be comfortable that this aligns with that handbook, because I think I actually read this a little bit before the meeting, so I know it was, I didn't really deep dive into it, but the gap that I'm seeing is, it talks about coming back to athletics. I just want to make sure this handbook aligns with the academic piece. Because I'm really not seeing anything here that teachers are informed, or they're notified, or that there may be an impairment on the student's part, they can't take tests or
Well, I
attend
think
class.
that, I think that like the wellness policy, it sort of comes back to, is this what exists in our, is that
If it lives someplace else, fine. I guess I just want to make sure it lives someplace else. I guess that's
So
my question.
the protocol handbook,
like when you sign up
it's on the
for-
website, I'm just pulling it up.
Like when you sign up for sports, because you have, you go through that, there's like 10 pages.
That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if someone actually has a concussion, that they're actually, in practice, this is actually happening. Because I know at least one example where this didn't happen. And I guess, I just want to make sure that if someone has a concussion, besides the athletic piece, that the teachers are informed, that it's like, they're not surprised, that they're aware of whatever the
So let me,
treatment plan is going to be, that sort of
let me
thing.
play devil's advocate here. I think that every policy that we have to have those concerns that they're actually being followed. No?
It's Yeah, of course. Again, my comfort level would be knowing that if it's in the
So,
handbook,
John, I'm just
great.
going to read you a sentence. When
Sure.
returning to school, the injured student and the parent guardian should contact the school nurse, guidance, athletic director to ensure school staff are aware of the situation and ready to make accommodations if necessary. See communication flow chart. Students have been diagnosed with concussions will need to develop a written graduated reentry plan for academics as well as extracurricular.
Sounds pretty general, but
I mean, it's,
Yeah, I saw
it's
that
addressing.
in here.
Oh. I mean, I guess it's a protocol, right? So it's supposed to happen. I mean, any protocol may or may not be happening, right? It just depends how administration forces it, right? I mean, is that what you're saying? Like, we just want to make sure it's happening?
yeah, yes, that it's happening and that it's, I mean, to me, that sounds very general. It doesn't sound like there's a specific yes, we will notify all this person's, the student's teachers, we'll notify, whoever else needs to be notified. It's just, they will, it sounds like it says, I don't have it in front of me, it sounds like they'll take appropriate steps. So, yeah, again, it's just that it's actually happening and that it's, and again, maybe that handbook needs more detail. I don't know, I haven't really looked at the handbook.
Yeah, no, that it's, I don't see,
I mean, I guess I come back to the same thing, which is, if, it's like the cell phone policy. We're sitting here and we create a policy, and the expectation is that it's followed. Chemical,
Yeah, so I think my concern is.
chemical health
yeah.
policy, it's the same thing. So, in none of these other scenarios are we saying, well, we want to see the daily protocol to make sure that they're being followed.
Yeah, I'm not saying to put it in the policy, I'm just saying, I don't really want to vote on a policy relative to concussions if I'm not comfortable that the underlying handbook that this policy, overlays actually has the proper,
Okay, so then what
proper
I'll-
instruction, how to notify
So
it.
what I'm gonna do then is, with the committee's approval, I will put this off till the next meeting, and in the meantime, if you could
Yep.
do the research that you need to do to feel comfortable with that, that would be good.
That'd be great, thank you.
I mean, I think our problem is, it says it in here, it says written reentry plan shall include instructions for students, parents, and school personnel, about accommodation and modifications needed, if any, for gradual return to classroom studies, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it delineates that, but I think the sticking point is whether or not it's enforced.
For everything.
But for everything, I agree, because we've had a cell phone policy for years saying you can't use it in the classrooms, right? And teachers, ignored
Yeah,
that policy, right? But
I don't disagree, Suzanne. I think I'm trying to come at this from, a practical approach, that if we approve this, then it's just going to continue like it's been, which may or may not be enforced. So I just want to make sure that, if there is an opportunity to tighten up in that handbook, not us, but that it could be tightened up, that it's done.
So maybe what this is not holding off on voting for this policy, but we do vote for the policy, and.
I'd rather not do that because,
Hold on one
again,
second, hold on. With the express directive, to our superintendent, that this is a concern that you have, and you make this concern public, so that you follow up with it.
Again, I'd rather not. My feelings are that
Okay.
if we approve it, then it's just going to be passed by. So I'd
Okay,
rather
so.
hit the pause button.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily disagree with John. My concern, if we don't approve it, is are we running amok of any false sport? So I'm just quickly looked at the DPH website on schools and concussions. It's incredibly straightforward. So I would just want to make sure, and I don't have an answer for
So
tomorrow.
we don't have to have it until, it's due the 25th of September.
Okay.
So we have another meeting to do this.
Great, I just want to make sure.
Okay,
That's-
I will say, that it's incumbent on all the members of the school committee to look at these things before we get to the table. So,
Okay.
next time, if you could do that, that would be helpful. That way we can
I'm
just.
sorry, I
vote
don't
and
understand what you just said.
We all get this agenda ahead of time, so I think if you had those concerns, it's definitely within your realm to call the superintendent and say, I've got a concern about this, so that we can get that taken care of before we come to the table.
Yep, that's fine. I mean, like I said, this came to my attention this afternoon, so I'm bringing it up today. But I hear what you're saying.
But we didn't get the agenda this afternoon,
So can I just ask a question?
yeah.
Again, I have no problem voting on this, but if we want to wait, that's great, but I just want to make sure that we're covered in case there's a sports issue prior to our next meeting.
We are,
Okay,
because it's not due until the 25th of
Okay.
September, and I think that we can hold this off and.
okay.
And,
Just make it.
because I do want everybody to feel good about this, and I think that this is the kind of thing that should have a an all in favor, an approval.
Unanimous, yeah.
So I think it's important for you to do that, okay?
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good, thank you.
Okay, so then unless anybody has anything to add to the subcommittees, I'll move into the actions and votes.
Actually, can I have one thing?
Yeah,
Sorry, I don't know if it fits under here, but I've been giving updates. One final update, I was on that search committee for the TA.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, they've already made, the select board's already made this, that's how long it's been since we last met, but it was, just to kind of put some context, we did send up 3 candidates, which we thought were all excellent. Any one of them could have stepped into the role. And at the end of the day, we went to the select board for that presentation meeting and said, any of these folks could step in. It was a very rigorous process, very lengthy interview process, asked a lot of good questions, and I think the person they selected will do a good job. He has very good temperament. They all had good temperaments, frankly, for Swampscott and the tone of Swampscott, but it was a very, very good process overall. Everybody was very, very engaged. All the 5 of us on the search committee, very, very engaged and took it very seriously. So hopefully, going forward, everyone will see what we saw, and hopefully it'll be a good fit.
yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Well, thank you for, that's a
Yeah.
lot of work.
Thank you for
So
volunteering.
thanks for representing us.
Can I make a suggestion, and I'm sure you've already thought of this, that when the new town administrator is in, you should probably have a one-on-one with him.
Me?
Yeah, as the chair,
I'm,
unless you think,
I think that
Jason
Jason should, and I think that as part of when we have our tri-chairs, that makes sense.
Okay.
But if he wants to, I know you've been meeting with all of the select board members, which I think is great. If he wants to meet with us, then that's
Okay.
great too. But I won't, I don't think I want to push that, but.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Can I say something?
What was that?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you know more about this stuff.
No, it's-
Yeah?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward to an anonymous donation that we have received. This is a pretty substantial donation. It is for $10,000.
Wow.
It is to be used at the discretion of the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the finance and operations director. Or, I'm sorry, the assistant superintendent of finance and operations. And obviously, this is a very large gift, and it is in fact truly anonymous. I believe that Ms. Kelly knows who the person is, and probably our assistant superintendent of finance, because she had to cash the check, but it is,
Pretty great.
yeah.
Generous, very generous.
yeah, incredibly so.
So I will entertain a motion to approve.
I so move that we approve the donation of $10,000.
A second?
Second.
Do you want to talk at all about how this might be used? Is it earmarked for anything?
Not yet. We are, it's constantly sort of trying to figure out the best usage of funds. I think one of the original discussions is about our engineering and robotics programs, but nothing's been finalized yet.
Yeah. I would add that I would hope that it would be for the purchase of something and not necessarily to keep the lights on, not for like an operations.
Sure.
But I don't know if anybody else has.
No, I was actually gonna say exactly what you said. I would hope it's for whether it's a robotics, whether it's something else, that it's something tangible,
Mhm.
not just,
Anybody else? All in favor? The motion is approved unanimously. And to whomever gave this gift, I wish I could thank you personally. Next, we have a vote for the donation that Big Blue Bargains is giving us for $5,000. This is to support the music and movement program at the Swampscott Integrated Preschool. I see Miss Raymond smiling, so I'm going to take that as a good thing. I will take a motion to accept this.
I will move that we accept the donation from Big Blue Bargains for $5,000.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Votes unanimous. That's really exciting. So thank you again to Big Blue Bargains. They're a great community partner. And then we have another big donation, which is from the Doug Flutie Foundation. They donated some equipment to the Swampscott Elementary School playground. Do you want to talk about this at all, or should I just read?
You want to talk about it?
Sure. They donated a communication board, so it will have pictures and really that show different ways that children may communicate. So some people may not communicate verbally or with sign language. They may actually use photos or icons or pictures. The actual poster, I think it has plexiglass, so it can be outside and it will be protected. It'll be located. Did it get put up yet? I haven't seen it. Do you happen to know, Jason?
I haven't seen it either.
I don't believe so. I think.
Not yet.
Yeah,
So it'll be located within the playground structure, and it's just really important for everybody to know that there's different ways that that children and adults communicate. Really helps promote our inclusivity, and then we have children of all different backgrounds and all different disabilities too that may need to utilize something like that. So it really increases awareness and increases acceptance, which I think we've all been talking about. And it can be utilized too for some peer-to-student, peer-to-peer interaction and adult-to-peer. So most of our students, who require that type of communication system, have their own devices. So they have their own iPads that have communication software on them. So that it's not the primary tool that we would use for someone, but it does actually have a blow-up version of what that might look like on an iPad. And so we're hoping, children are curious and they ask questions, and I think that will just encourage the welcomeness and welcoming atmosphere.
The ribbon cutting will be some pictures. I believe it's 2 Thursdays from now, 5 o'clock, and I know I'll represent as part of CPAC. I'll go to that. I did ask the folks involved to make sure that an invitation was extended to yourself or your designee.
That's the 11th.
That's the 11th, yes.
Okay. All in favor? The motion is approved unanimously. It's exciting. And then last but not least, we have some regular session minutes from June 12th, if anybody would like to make a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And last but not least, unless anybody has something to add, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I do have one
Second.
question. Do we know when our student representatives will be joining us?
So we're eyeing the 11th, but the problem is I'm not going to be here on the 11th. So I don't know if we were going to talk about it on Tuesday. I was going to talk about it on Tuesday when we meet. So if not, the 25th.
Okay.
Great.
I'm meeting with them during their X block on September 3rd.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I will make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.